All right, let's get to this story. Now, we're talking about the District of Maryland, Virginia. So Trump takeover, the federal takeover of DC. And we got a clip. You referred me to this Breaking Points clip. It's a couple days old, so it's dated in some respects. We're not going to play all of it. They did really good coverage, but I want to play some of it, and I'll interrupt it at various points. And then I'm going to challenge us both on our previous position with respect to the Harris-Trump election. But here's the clip.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's one of the things that's ridiculous about.
So, yeah, this is Breaking Points, but let me just preface this. So Carlos shared this. I thought it was a good clip because they do have some video, some imagery, and also they have an interview with Janice Lewis George. She's one of the probably the most progressive, progressive in D.C. council. And I actually did work for her when I was at Our Revolution. You know, I helped try to get her elected. So I like Janice Lewis George.
Yeah, DSA support and all that. Yeah, she is good.
She really is. She's as good as they get on that on the Democratic side. All right, here's Crystal Ball more on DC with the National Guard. This is a few days ago, and this is the 12th.
At A5 up on the screen, like, you know, this was the scene in DC is all these DEA agents, because they not only called up the National Guard, they also pulled agents from DEA, FBI, and other federal law enforcement agencies.
But I'll stop that clip there. I'm going to go back. One thing that took me, and I wanted to play that, Carlos, is because my son was down at the baseball game yesterday in D.C., and this is exactly what he described. Just a bunch of guys, you know, maybe some of them a little heavy, overweight. They're slovenly. I think they're looking very unimpressive, to be honest with you. Just standing around, talking, gabbing, doing nothing. So what a huge waste. Beyond everything else, what a waste of our money.
It is. There's no reason for them to be out there. I don't even think they have arresting authority to like arrest people for this like day-to-day stuff. So they're literally just there wasting time and wasting money. And honestly, it is I mean, you see here, they're just walking around as people are jogging and going about their normal day.
And that goes to our tax money. I mentioned that what we spend our money on was just a complete waste. And Crystal Ball makes the point, presumably there probably are some criminal activities they could be worried about, but
stopping fentanyl, like they could be doing, the DEA could be doing that. You could have like, now I'm all for getting like having law enforcement to some respect of like FBI agents and stuff, not do some of the like destabilizing of America's cities and just activist groups that they do. But this is a waste of time. And this is honestly, this is a show of force. I've also been hearing people talk about how this is almost like using DC as a test case to saying, hey, let's see how far we can expand this. And Trump has even talked about bringing the National Guard to places like Chicago and Baltimore and other places. So, I mean, he did already in LA. He brought
in LA, the ICE. It was ICE, but also National Guard. Very worrisome trend. And it does remind me a little bit when you see those federal agents patrolling the streets, especially in a park. I have to say, there's like this mindset in me that goes back to even Nazi Germany, seeing those stormtroopers and stuff walking through the parks of Berlin. And it's intimidating. People don't like it. There's a lot of response. It's not like you just have one local DC, Metro PD officer walking the streets, which is fine. You always feel good. But just a bunch of these guys, what are they doing there? I think there's an intimidation factor. And I mean, what's the goal? Is this you said test case? Is this kind of a, more fascism, really just we live in a police state where everything we do is being overseen?
Yeah, I think this is just the expansion of the police state in its latest form. I mean, I think also as you look at it too, this is like there's a recent video of some black men who were sitting on, I think they're like a porch or something, and then some of these federal officers were walking the street and then walked up to them and said, "Hey, what are you all doing here? Do you have your ID on you? What are you smoking?" And then started going into almost this like interrogation of them. And they're like, "Oh yeah, no, we're just here to keep the area safe." It's like, one, you're not keeping the area safe because there's not even a big correlation between police presence and safety anyway. But then also it's it's made to be, hey, we're just going to intimidate residents here to make you feel scared. And there's even other like news people talking about how Trump should go further and basically like kick people out of DC. I am on more of the mindset of this could be him saying, look, depending on how this whole election goes and what criminal charges he could be facing when he gets out of office, let me just go ahead and almost barricade myself in DC a little bit, have federal officers lined up that I control, and then try to kick me out. What are you going to do?
I think that's right. I think your analysis is spot on, Carlos. I'd also note he's really gone after the homeless more than any other group when it comes to the particular DC takeover, which is awful. These folks have no place to go, obviously. That's why they're homeless, because they have nowhere else. That's why they're living in the streets. I think, this offends Trump's sense of aesthetics. So he doesn't like to see people who are living, under bridges, which is literally how many people in DC live, under railroad bridges, under highway overpasses. Yep. And rather than try to make their lives better, rather than spend the money to provide not just shelter, not just one shelter, but actual apartments, Trump's going to spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars on law enforcement that will only worsen the situation. But this is what we've seen. This is where we are as a country, really heartless, soulless, cruel. Let me play a little more clip. I want to Janice Lewis George, and then maybe go back to our position when it comes to the 24 presidential election. Maybe did we dope it out a little bit wrong? Here's Councilwoman Lewis George.
I feel like she has handled the run up to this crisis.
And just let me again introduce. So this is the most progressive council member in DC, I believe. Maybe Alyssa Silverman isn't on the council anymore, not sure. But Janice Lewis George, DSA endorsed. Again, I helped try to get her elected. We succeeded. She won. She and the mayor are not close. Muriel Bowser is much more of a corporate mayor. She has consistently bent over backwards, I believe, to try to make DC business friendly, to work with Republicans. She's focused to a significant degree on quality of life issues that impact on Northwest, which is the whiter, wealthier area of the city. And this is very different than populist Janice Lewis George, who wants to make sure there's housing, affordable housing, more like a Mamdani, I guess. And anything you want to add to that, Carlos? I get that pretty much correct.
Oh, no, you're spot on. I would also just add that also Muriel Bowser is very in favor of the gentrification that's been happening in DC, and actually is doing things to actually expand the gentrification when it comes to housing and the building of these like luxury apartment buildings and things like that as well. And then I would also add that Janice Lewis George actually represents Ward 4, which is the ward that Muriel Bowser used to represent as a council member before she got elected to being mayor as well.
Yeah, and one other point. There was a lot of uproar because Trayvon Martin, who is kind of a very controversial figure, there's serious questions about corruption. He represents the poorest ward. I believe it's 8 in Anacostia, so that's the east of the
Marion
river.
Barry ward.
That's right, the Marion Barry ward. And I think there are very fair questions about Trayvon Martin. I mean, I'm not going to defend the guy, but the people who live in that ward understandably view themselves as under siege from the rest of the city. Yeah. And this is, pretty much a black-run city, but the African Americans and whites who in the other parts of the city treat Anacostia like a dumping ground. And so they see Trayvon Martin, who speaks up against them and uses very, I think, powerful language, and often fairly, that they're going to overlook his questionable financial behavior. So I think that's what happens when you have this incredible inequality. Janice Lewis George, though, really good. And here, let's play some. So she's asked about the mayor's response.
Particular crisis, and what should she be doing differently?
I think she has taken the cautionary approach in how she's handled with the administration, and sort of tried to find common ground with the president and Republicans, and sort of tried in her best ways to sort of appease whatever they are trying to do. I think in some instances, people could say, that's what we have to do because we're under home rule and we're in a vulnerable position. And I do think we are in a vulnerable position because of not having statehood and the home rule charter. But I think the mayor should be a little bit more active and forceful in fighting for district residents and saying and declaring sort of what Trump is doing is wrong, right? Like, yesterday you heard mayors from all across the country and in the cities that Trump indicated, like Chicago and Baltimore and Los Angeles, unequivocally say, our city is is handling crime. Crime is low here. But also defending their city in a more forceful manner. And I would like to see the sort of notion of like, let's find a common ground and compromise versus let's defend our citizens and defend our citizens' rights.
All right. Anything you want to add to that, Carlos?
Yeah, she's exactly right. I think that as we've seen with not just the way other mayors and stuff have handled this, when we even look at the quote unquote trade war that Trump is doing, we've even seen Trump does not. There's no appeasing him by saying, hey, if I do X, Y, and Z, then you'll leave me alone for the rest of the stuff. Once he knows that you will give him what he wants, the demands will never stop. So I agree with her. Muriel Bowser should just put her foot down and say, no, we're not gonna do this. You're gonna have to go to court for us to give you power over DC.
Yeah, no, I agree. Also, Bowser definitely did try to appease Trump and talk about how they will work with Trump, and he has legitimate, some legitimate concerns. But to be fair to Bowser, and I mentioned this is an older video, so old, 2-3 days old. But since that, when Trump kept, as you point out, and as so does Louis George, he just keeps taking, right? You give him a little, an inch, he'll take a mile. DC has now sued to stop the takeover. So I personally am good with this. I feel like, I understand what Louis George was saying. I agree that it would have been much better to have stronger language, but I get where Bowser, and I'm not a fan of Bowser, trust me, I'm not, but I get where she had felt she had to step lightly given the sort of subordinate status that DC has. So I'm okay with it. And now they are suing Trump. So I don't know what else they could do.
Yeah, I think that, you know what I think should have probably been done by now is there had been even if it's a press conference with, like, you bring on your Eleanor Holmes Norton, who's the congressional delegate, I guess they call it, for DC. You bring on the attorney general, the police chief, the mayor, the city council people, and you have a press conference basically say, here is A, B, C, and D, what we're going to do to fight this, and letting residents know, here's the rights you have against this as well. I think there's a lot of times there's kind of like this, we're working behind the scenes for your best interest, but you don't know what that looks like or what it is in that goes on.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, Carlos. I would note you mentioned, and I did not know this, that the close to nonagenarian, she's in her late 80s, I think you told me.
She's 88 years old right now and running for re-election. Delegate
Holmes Norton, but she hasn't been seen, correct?
No.
She's very demented. I don't think there's any question. Her mind is, I don't mean to be funny. She really, because when she's in press conferences, she loses the thread.
Yeah.
She falters.
She's an 88-year-old woman who, has...
That's how it is.
Sign reported about how even before, I think ever since Trump took this DC takeover thing, she has not been seen in public. She is not sent out any press releases, any statements about what's going on. And it's like, she's 88 years old. I think
it's so sad. This was a woman who very forceful, very high profile hero of the civil rights movement in the District of Columbia, a professor at Georgetown Law. So obviously high powered, intellectual, and, we're witnessing her decline. This is exactly what we saw with Dianne Feinstein, who I don't think had as impressive a record, but she had been, I believe, mayor of San Francisco. these Democratic politicians, if they're not going to step aside, I think the party needs to exercise far more power, far more control over pushing them out. That's what Hogg wanted to do, David Hogg, and he got a huge blowback for even saying if you're too old, if you're over a certain age. I mean, my gosh, the retirement age, 65, 67, these folks are 20 years plus past that.
Exactly.
And, I mean, it's a huge problem. What do we do? We talk about this all the time. We got to stop voting for these people. We got to come up with better solutions. That's what we said. I said, don't vote for Kamala. She's awful. Were we wrong? Now we look at Trump taking over cities. And you were with me too. You weren't supporting Harris, but and to make it about race a little bit, you mentioned 3 other cities, or Louis George does. You did too. In addition to DC, 3 cities with black mayors. I think we can't ignore that. There's a race element here.
Of course.
So. Were we wrong? Should we have voted for Harris? No. What do we do here? What are we doing here, Carlos?
So look, I'm gonna have to agree with you. How I think if Kamala Harris was president, do I believe that she would be calling the National Guard and all the feds to show up and walk the DC streets? No, I don't. Do I think that she would be exercising other authority over DC? I mean, if she was going along with everything Biden did, probably so, because we have to remember too, Biden vetoed DC's crime bill after the Republicans in the House and Senate said that they're going to get rid of it. Or I think maybe it was a 50-50 in the Senate then, but he also got rid of DC's crime bill that they did, which actually had some good things when it came to decreasing certain sentences for certain crimes,
nonviolent offenses.
Yeah, for nonviolent offenses.
And also, cashless. Do they have cashless bail now? I know that was for some reason Trump is a big thorn in it. Cashless bail for some reason Trump has a bee in his bonnet about, which I don't get that at all. It doesn't make anybody less safe.
But how? Because he says that he needs it so that his rich friends can get out of bail and get out of jail. Right. And it's not because if they weren't, and I think some of these people went to jail, it'd be like, ooh, we can't really let them out because of what you did for rich people. So rich people have to get out of jail free card some kind of way. But no, I think that one, it's definitely a racial component to it. But 2, I also think that this is something that both Democrats and Republicans have been bad on when it comes to giving DC autonomy over itself. I mean, President Obama could have, when he had the majority in the House and Senate, they could have passed legislation to give DC statehood, and then we wouldn't be talking about this. So it's one of those things. It's like Democrats set the table and Republicans sit down and eat.
Yeah. Well, we both agreed that the Democrats bear a lot of the blame for this. The Democrats are bad, but it probably wouldn't be this bad. Yeah. So I don't know what you do with that, because I'm not going to just vote for bad. I'm not going to vote for evil. People say, well, you vote for the lesser of evil, you still get evil. I never agreed with that. But at some point, I like I said with Harris, I don't agree with anything she I never liked, from the beginning, I didn't like her policies. Yeah. Before she was even a senator, before she was attorney general in the state of California, because I was living out there, so I saw her. And I didn't trust her. I didn't think she was a good choice, and I didn't think she had gotten where she deserved to. She should get through merit, but more through her connection to the mayor, His Honor, Willie Brown. And Willie Brown even has said it. Willie Brown's even said, yeah, no, she's not.
He really did. He was like, if it wasn't for me, she wouldn't be where she was today.
That's right. Well, it's true. Yeah. So all that aside, we wouldn't be in this bad place probably, at least in this regard. But, if she just thrown us a bone, if she'd even said anything about the Gaza genocide, I would have held my nose and voted for her. But there's got to be a point, right, where we don't accept the Democrat.
Yeah. I mean, I'm one to say, is a Democrat better than a Republican? I think it depends on what issue. 9 times out of 10, yes, but I think that better is very, very marginal. I also think if we keep running this scheme of voting for the lesser of 2 evils, the evils just keep getting worse. So at some point, the lesser of 2 evils is the evil that the other side was 2 years ago. So I mean, at some point, we're just voting for the same things.
Yeah, I think that's right. I want to just put this on screen because, I was really trying to figure out, well, is what Trump's doing legal? Is it illegal? What are the legit, how can we push back? And as a lawyer, I always looked at the law. I really did. You can read descriptions in newspapers. You can read what a judge even says, but I always look at the actual code itself. So there it is. There's your whole code. And I highlighted part of it, but basically, the president can, when Trump determines that special conditions of an emergency nature exist, which require the use of Metro Police for federal purposes, the president may direct the mayor to provide him. The mayor shall provide such services of the police force. So, first of all, that's incredible amount of power. It just says the president determines. It doesn't say how he determines. Doesn't give it, say that these conditions have to be met. A judge, there's judicial review. Nothing. The president just gets to determine it. But still, you feel he has to. What are there's no emergency nature. It's ridiculous. Crime rates are down. You saw those sloppy looking federal agents walking around a totally safe area of DC. I go to DC a lot. I never feel unsafe.
No.
There are dangerous areas. It's true. Let's not right.
Everywhere has dangerous areas.
Everywhere is dangerous areas. This is ridiculous. There's just a pretext. It's false, but still he can do it, but only for 48 hours until he provides the reason and how long it's going to last. As far as I know, that hasn't happened. He only gets to do this for 30 days. He says he's going to go beyond. It's fascism, Carlos. It
is. We're watching fascism take place more rapidly, I guess, than it would have if the other person would have won. But I mean, still, fascism is fascism. We live in a police state. We live in a pro-cop country. It's really disgusting.
What should we do? What should we do? What do you think? What do you recommend? I want to ask you what you're doing because that's a little bit unfair. I mean, we do what we do, but what should we be doing?
I hate to sound like a broken record. I think people need to vote differently, vote for other parties outside of the duopoly, but I also think people need to push their current legislators to do more, stand up more, take more of a charge. I mean, honestly, I would love to see the same kind of action around this to what people did during the Black Lives Matter protests of 2020. Like, you have a movement across the country of people standing up and saying, like, we're not going to keep going for this, and then push out the federal police.
I don't know how you do that, though. I mean,
they did it in it wasn't federal police then, but I remember, wasn't it Minneapolis or Oregon maybe, where there was a section of like a city that basically like protesters took over and was like, no cops are coming in this area for they did it for like a few weeks, I think.
Was this in response to Trump? I'm thinking that's LA. I thought that was a part of LA.
I was thinking back during the Black Lives Matter protests. Oh. I know that there was some no cops in this area type of movement, but I'm not 100%.
All right, Carlos Child's with us. Don't forget, click like, click subscribe. Any kind of contact, any kind of interaction with Halitics is really, really good for beating the algorithm. We showed you that crime is down in DC, but still, no, it's a problem. I mean, no one's going to say it isn't, but they're addressing it. I always felt, I worked for the District of Columbia, no issues. I mean, I always thought, based on my experiences, DC was actually a far less corrupt city than places like, for example, New York. I mean, look at New York. I mean, Cuomo, Adams, Schumer. I mean, these people are just, who say it again? So who is
Bloomberg?
Bloomberg, right. Well, he's just a billionaire anyway, but clearly Giuliani.
Yeah.
So DC
has been better. I mean, DC has a record of like your Marion Barrys, like people who are actually 100% with the people. And we've talked about this at different moments too. People will overlook humanistic flaws if you're actually serving them. They will say, look, I don't care what you do in your personal time, as long as you're doing what I need you to do, then we're good. I think, and one more thing before we change topics here is that on the Mamdani front, it's a lot of people who are now saying, given what happened to Cuomo with Mamdani, that people are looking at Janice Lewis George as, hey, maybe she could have a Mamdani moment against Muriel Bowser. Because if Muriel Bowser does run for re-election and wins, this would be her 4th term as the mayor of DC.
Well, I would love to see Janice Lewis George run for mayor. I don't know if she's quite as far to the left as Mamdani, maybe just not as outspoken, but that would be great.
Yep.
You know, it'd be really good to see it. And there were issues with Barry, not so much as far as I know with corruption exactly, but the crack, cracks,
okay.
Yeah, drugs.
Well, that's did on his own personal
extramarital affairs, and that kind of thing.
Personal stuff. Yeah, just personal stuff he got going on.
All right. I see that.
Oh yeah, no, we defend Barry.
I don't want to make him an exemplar. He had his flaws.